In the quiet town of Millhaven, Ohio, a terrifying legend was born. They say deep in the woods, a clown waits, watching, waiting. But what if I told you this wasn't just a story? This is the true tale of a boy who was turned into a monster by cruelty. And his name was Henry. In the 1930s, the Miller family was the picture of perfection. Wealthy, respected, and powerful. They lived in a grand mansion on the edge of town, but behind closed doors. They were anything but perfect. When they adopted 7-year-old Henry, the town thought he was lucky. A poor orphan, finally given a life of luxury. But Henry's reality was far from lucky. The Millers didn't treat him like a child. To them, he was just a tool, a servant, a punching bag. Instead of a cozy bedroom, Henry was locked in the basement, a cold, damp space with nothing but flickering lights, and the sound of rats scratching in the walls. His bed, crumpled newspapers. His only company, the shadows. One day, while cleaning the dusty corners of the basement, Henry found something. An old, battered clown doll. Its paint was chipped, its clothes torn, but to Henry, it was beautiful. He whispered to the doll every night. "You're my only friend," he'd say, clutching it tightly as tears rolled down his face. Over time, the doll became more than a comfort. Henry swore it could hear him, and then it started talking back. In the dead of night, he'd hear faint whispers.
"They don't love you. Make them pay."
At first, Henry thought he was imagining it, but the voice grew louder, clearer, impossible to ignore. One winter night, after a particularly brutal beating, Henry decided he couldn't take it anymore. With his body aching and his hands trembling, he grabbed the clown doll and climbed out of the basement window. The night was bitterly cold. The wind howled through the trees, and every shadow seemed alive. But Henry didn't care. He ran. The woods were dark, the branches clawing at his skin, but he didn't stop. Somewhere, deep in the forest, Henry disappeared into the blackness. And the Millers? They didn't even look for him. For years, Millhaven forgot about Henry, until 1962. That year, children began to vanish. Always near the woods, always without a trace. Parents warned their kids to stay away, but whispers spread of something lurking in the shadows. People started talking about the clown, a figure seen in the distance with hollow eyes and a twisted smile. Some said they heard laughter soft at first, then maddeningly loud. Desperate to find answers, a group of men formed a search party. Armed with flashlights and rifles, they ventured deep into the forest. What they found still haunts Millhaven to this day. Hidden among the trees was a shack, small, rotting, and nearly swallowed by moss. Inside, the walls were covered in disturbing drawings. Hundreds of clown faces stared back, some smiling, others screaming. Among them were photos of the missing children, each one marked with a blood-red X. In the corner of the room, they saw him, Henry, but he wasn't the boy they remembered. His skin was pale, almost translucent. His eyes were lifeless, yet they seemed to follow the men. He wore a filthy clown costume, stained with dirt, and something darker. And in his hands, he still held that doll. The men fled, leaving Henry behind. But the story didn't end there. Some believe the forest changed him, twisting his mind and body. Others say the doll was cursed, whispering dark thoughts until it consumed him. One thing is certain, Millhaven will never forget the legend of Henry, the clown who waits in the woods.
What do you think? Was Henry a victim or a monster? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, if you ever hear laughter coming from the woods, don't look back.